Welcome to 5 Points Blues presentation of Back to the Basics. Everything you wanted to know about Cowboys football, but were too afraid to ask. Here are your hosts, Nikki Harrison and Christy Scales.
I mean, the ratings were down this year, 10-year low. Do you think that the Patriots have something to do with that? People are just tired?
I think there's some tired.
Yeah, I think you're casual fans, you're like, okay, we get it. Because if you looked at, there were so many polls of, who do they think would win? And it was like Patriots. Like, how can you bet against Tom Brady? And truly, I mean, this is a guy that's done something that nobody else has done in the National Football League. So it is hard to bet against him. But in the same sense, I think the Rams are still growing their fan base. I mean, they've gone up and down throughout their franchise history, moving away from Los Angeles, upsetting fans then moving away from St. Louis and upsetting fans then. And then the past 2 years, they've struggled with the Chargers and the Rams dynamic in Los Angeles itself.
Right.
But the one thing I will say is that there's so many stats that show now that more younger fans follow players rather than teams. Okay. And they do have the young stars, the rising guys, and Todd Gurley, Jared Goff. I mean, everyone loves Aaron Donald, but those names are still getting out there. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that was probably due to that a little bit in the ratings. Mm-hmm. But then the boring game, I thought it got more exciting in the fourth quarter when it could go either way.
Yeah.
It really could.
What do you think?
I was not bored at all. I loved it.
That's good. That's good to hear, because I haven't heard that much.
Yeah, well, there's an old axiom, truism, defense wins championships. Mm-hmm. And everyone's like, that's so passé. It's not. Defense still wins championships, and this was evidence of that. For sure. And I know I'm the get off my lawn old lady who likes, old school football and stuff like that. But, the college game where you've got these 62 to 55 and it's football, the emphasis and the spread offense and these high scoring games. It's like, if I want that, I'll play Madden. I want real football, hard hitting defense, team oriented football, and that's what you get with the Patriots. Yeah. And what you got, and they can win either way. They can either shut you down and win a low scoring affair, or they can win a shootout, and that's what makes the Patriots so great.
Yeah, and I think football fans in general in America had gotten spoiled during championship weekend, because you have your AFC championship game and your NFC championship game come down to overtime play. Of course, the NFC one was controversial. Mm-hmm. Still so that I think the ratings in New Orleans were...
Oh, yeah. They vowed to not watch the game.
Yeah.
The whole city.
It was controversial, if you would, in the sports world. But, yeah, I mean, I just think that we got a little bit spoiled. They had the Rams-Chiefs games earlier in the regular season. That was what Christy was talking about, that glorified shootout, just every time red zone offense. But... I mean, it's just Tom Brady. Yeah.
It's amazing. He is just that amazing.
Mm-hmm. Well, so, what did you guys think of the commercials?
I only remember a few, but my favorite was the NFL commercial with the NFL legends. I don't even know what.
The 100-year anniversary. That's what 2019 will be
Loved
100 seasons, 100 years of the NFL.
I love that one.
Well, they did what they could do, is they have access to every single star who's ever been in the NFL. Mm-hmm. They have the resources and the means by paying these guys. And then so many inside jokes were played, and that was what connects people to football.
Yes. I agree.
It's my favorite commercial of all time.
Of all time.
Of all time, because, as Taylor said, there were so many trigger points. And, if you're a longtime fan or new, you had Derwin James and Saquon Barkley. But then there was just a glimpse. There were the three guys in kind of the teal jackets. Well, that's a nod to the Miami Dolphins, that's Zonka and guys like that. It's the only undefeated team in NFL history. So when it shows them and they're just kind of nodding, it's like, oh, that was great.
It was so
And Franco
thoughtful.
Harris, the immaculate reception where the ball's about to hit the ground and he picks it up. It's that and the Hail Mary are arguably the most famous plays in NFL history. Mm-hmm. I thought it was brilliant.
I did too.
And then Sam Gordon was in it. And I don't know if you guys remember Sam Gordon. She's 15 now. but she had gone viral on social media probably about 4 or 5 years ago. And she was the young girl who was playing football, and she was juking guys. I mean,
amazing.
This highlight clip of her had gone viral. I think she's still active. I don't know how much further she's been playing. Gotcha. But when she popped up, I was like, that's Sam Gordon. Granted, it was like teenage Sam compared to when she was little, and she had done some things at the ESPYs before, but they included her too because that's the future.
Yeah,
right.
and so
cool.
and I'm glad we're talking about her on Girls and Women in Sports Day. So yeah, she was the one in the red dress at the very end. So the ball has been, it's chaos and people tackling and throwing and catching and fumbling the balls, and so she's the one. Richard Sherman says, have the ball, please, and she's like, you want this? You're going to have to take it, and she jukes them. But there were also 2 other women featured in the NFL 100-year commercial, and that is that at one point while the ball's going, it's near the midpoint of the commercial, and they've thrown a pass, and Odell Beckham Jr. goes to catch it and falls into the table, and an official signals that it's a catch, and then you hear first down. Well, that's Sarah Thomas.
Okay.
And she is part of Ron Torbert's crew. He's the referee. She's the down judge on his crew. So that's Ron Torbert giving the signal that it's a catch, and Sarah Thomas saying first down. And then there's another point in the commercial where Beth Mowins, who is a ESPN play-by-play announcer, mainly for women's college basketball, but many sports, including I think it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, she did the Monday Night Football game on ESPN with Rex Ryan in the booth as the analyst. Beth Mowins was seated in one of them, and you can see her in the background on one of those shots. So Sam Gordon, Sarah Thomas, and Beth Mowins were featured in the program.
And there was another one. Do you guys remember this one? It was a Toyota commercial. And it had, I wrote her name, Tony Harris. And she's the first female to have ever gotten a full scholarship playing football to college. And she goes to Bethany College in Kansas.
When I was at New Mexico, I was pretty fortunate. There was a woman named Katie Nida, and she was a kicker, and she played for New Mexico. She played for CU Boulder, too. And she didn't get a full ride scholarship, but she did play college football.
That's so cool.
Yeah, she's an amazing person. She actually has had some health scares over the past year or so. But she's incredible. And I remember just the talks that she would give. And she was like, I can kick the ball. I mean, just...
It's not hard.
The U.S. women's soccer team played here in Frisco at Toyota Stadium, home of FC Dallas, our Major League Soccer team. They played here in the fall. Actually, I think it was in December.
Yeah.
And so they actually practiced here in the Ford Center here at the Star indoors a couple of different days, maybe two for sure. And so they were out there and kicking field goals and stuff. And our midfielder, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just blanked out on her name.
Alex Morgan?
Not Alex Morgan, she's a forward. But anyway, she was kicking like 40-yard field goals.
My goodness.
Easily.
Wow.
Easily.
Well,
yeah.
If we need
Carly
to
Lloyd.
back up, huh?
Yeah, Carly Lloyd.
Carly Lloyd. That's awesome. Well, I don't want to get sidetracked because I do have some questions for us, okay?
Okay.
This is a long one, so I'm going to read it. This is in regards to Sunday's game. Tony Romo, said that Coach McVay had an interesting tactic towards the end of the game, which was for the offense to not break the huddle before 15 seconds on the play clock. Romo said that by doing this, Belichick would not be able to check the offense and adjust the defense accordingly because the headsets are turned off at that point. Is there a certain time when they can no longer communicate with the players? And this is from Olivia in Frisco. Thank you, Olivia.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of rules that go into the radio helmets and who can wear them and who can talk in them.
Okay.
So the quarterback has a radio receiver in his helmet, and he gets the play call. Usually it's from the offensive coordinator, but he has one on offense. One player on defense at a time on the field is allowed to get the calls from the defensive play caller, usually the defensive coordinator.
Okay. So just 2 players.
So yes, one player on offense, one player on defense. Usually it's your linebacker, your middle linebacker, or in the case of the Dallas Cowboys, it's Sean Lee when he plays outside, weak side linebacker. But when he's not on the field, then Jalen Smith wears the radio helmet. And if Jalen's not on the field and Sean isn't on the field, then Leighton Vander Esch wears the radio helmet.
Okay.
So what happens is you only have one person on each side of the ball on the field at a time with the radio helmet, but you have a few radio helmets ready to go, because if Sean's out there on defense, then he's got the radio helmet, which means that Jalen can't wear. Jalen has 2 helmets and Leighton has 2 helmets.
Gotcha.
One with, one without.
Yeah. And so there's stickers. Is there something on the helmet?
Like a green sticker.
There is a green sticker on the back of the helmet, right, for the Cowboys. It's right on that blue stripe. But all players have and it's a bright neon green sticker on the back of the helmet.
Yeah. Okay.
And that lets the official, the referee, know, okay, this player has the radio helmet on. And if they see more than one green sticker, then that would be a penalty, because only one player on each side of the ball can wear it at one time. It also helps the players and the equipment manager keep straight who has it. But by rule, up to 3 players on defense are allowed to have a green sticker helmet, a radio helmet, but they can only one of those helmets can be on the field during the game.
Yeah, so like when Sean Lee goes down for an injury, I remember last year it was like Anthony Hitchens had to quickly, be
change
like, okay,
helmets.
I'm the guy now.
Change helmets,
And this was, of course, last year when Anthony was still here, and then this year it was better prepared, but they do practice.
And now, speaking of helmets, with you talking about how fast he has to get that other helmet with the speakers in it, what are they doing on the sideline? Sometimes you see them like, I don't know what it is. Yes, like what are they doing?
Yeah.
Well,
to the helmet.
To the helmet. Well, sometimes they're fixing it because you have, you have some technical issues.
That is a quarterback.
And if you look in the helmet, it would be the equivalent. It's like right above the ear hole. In there. Okay. And it fits. I believe it fits in their normal helmet, but the equipment staff has to work on that. Now, what happens is the play clock is 40 seconds. So let's say that I hand the ball to you, you get tackled, and as soon as you're tackled, the play clock begins, and we have 40 seconds until we have to snap the ball again.
Yes.
And it's counting down. That clock is, the play clock is counting down. The person on the sideline who is calling in the offensive plays to the quarterback, or the defensive play caller calling it into Sean Lee or Jalen or whoever on defense has it, they have their headsets on and they have their little belts on and they click, and now I'm calling the play in. Okay. Once that play clock reaches 15 seconds, and this is what Tony Romo was talking about in the Super Bowl. Once that the play clock reaches 15 seconds, there's a person up in the booth upstairs, a person who works for the league, that presses a button and it cancels the communication.
Oh. Okay.
So if I'm Dak Prescott and I'm getting the play call, they're talking in my helmet until 15 seconds, and then it cuts off.
So he could be mid-sentence.
Oh yeah.
Half the play cut off.
So one thing,
audibles.
One thing that Sean McVay, and this is what Tony Romo was talking about. Sean McVay, who is the head coach and the play caller, the offensive wunderkind of football, he talks a lot into Jared Goff's helmet, telling him not only what play to call, the play that Jared Goff repeats to his teammates in the huddle, but he's telling them other things like, okay, look for this, or watch for this, or the safety's moving over, the safety's doing this, or watch for the weak side blitz, or, he's giving them instructions, as the play is counting down.
Got it.
And so what would happen is, a lot of times, and the Rams did this to the Cowboys, as soon as they were tackled, they'd get right up on the line of scrimmage and make the Cowboys line up. And they do it real quickly instead of going real slow into the huddle and taking their time calling a play.
Yeah,
it wears you out, but it also gives McVay and Jerry Goff time to see how the Cowboys are going to line up. This is what they did to him in the divisional round game, the loss by the Cowboys. So that's more time for McVay to talk to Goff in the helmet.
Got it.
Okay?
Yes.
So they go to do this against the Patriots.
Yes.
Well, guess what? They're doing that fast. Well, on the defensive side of the ball, their coaches are talking to their signal caller, and he's communicating with his Patriots teammates. Okay? So tit for tat, right? I mean, they're matching them, right? And so what Olivia from Frisco, her question involved, they kind of changed things up. They changed up the tempo, how quickly they got to the line of scrimmage and things like that to try and eliminate some of the talk and instructions that were coming in from the sideline.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it does. Yes, it does. Now, she has several questions, which are really, really good. Does the design, rules, or any other discussions come up about the headsets and the speakers during league meetings?
I think this has been I'd have to look up the use. It was actually Tex Schramm way back in the 1980s, actually as early as the late 1970s. Tex Schramm, the Hall of Famer, the former president and general manager of the Dallas Cowboys, that was into having headsets for use for the play calls to the quarterback. So, this has been going on a long time. They experimented with it a year, and then it got tabled, and then it's been that way. It used to be only the quarterback wore it.
Okay.
But then they added, it's probably been 10 years, maybe 12. I'd have to research the year, but that the defense was allowed to do it. So there were many years where only the offense got the benefit of a play call. The defense would have to look to the sideline, and the coach is given hand signals of what to do. I know Livia had a question is, well, what happens if there are technical issues? Well, you got to go back to the old way and do it off of hand signals.
That's amazing.
That happens a lot in preseason football because if only 3 players can have on defense a radio helmet. Well, in preseason,
they're just rotating.
They're rotating guys, and you've got 4th and 5th stringers in at the end of the game, and there aren't enough radio helmet. If you can only designate 3 players, which preseason, same thing, only 3 on defense, can have one available to wear on the field, then they're having to do hand signals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I always laugh because the Microsoft Surfaces too, that's involved. Back in the day, you didn't get that opportunity to watch your immediate film and sit there with your coach and see what things were going on when you were sitting on the bench. And I'm sure.
Because what were they doing? Like literally printing off photos?
I'd say, well, what they do is they take photos, and there's it's still this way.
Okay.
Because some coaches prefer the printouts rather than the Microsoft Surface tablets. It's kind of a generational thing, to be honest. But like Coach Marinelli,
Coach Marinelli likes printouts of everything.
So behind the bench, literally, this is our guy Fritz and all the guys. There are camera stands upstairs. One at the 50-yard line, and then one end zone shot, and they take a still shot right before the ball is snapped, and then right as the ball is snapped. Right after it, kind of like right before the play, and then right as the play it begins, and every single play, and it prints out, and there are guys behind the bench that do it, put it together in a book, and hand it to the coaches.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah. Now the way it used to be before you had little printers that could print out, you're gonna think I'm joking, but I'm not. Picture a clothesline, like your grandma or great grandma had in the backyard. And clothespins that you would put the tighty-whities along the clothesline. Now picture a clothesline running from upstairs at a stadium down behind the bench, and picture clothespins, and picture a bunch of photos going down clothespin line.
Seriously, that's how fast the game has gotten. My goodness.
One thing about the Surface tablets, and the Surface tablets have been around for several years now.
Yeah.
One of the things that the competition committee of the NFL has talked about the last 2 years is, should we allow those Surface tablets, which the coaches and players look at on the sideline? Right now, it's still only the still shots. It's a still photo, not a video.
Okay.
Now, they have some really cool things where with your stylus you can draw, you can catalog things, you can put things in a file, and the coaches can pull them up real quickly. But right now, even though you are technically able to do videos, the league does not allow a video replay on the Surface tablet.
Okay.
So all they get on that tablet is a still shot right before the play, and then right as the play is happening. Same thing as Marinelli and the coaches who prefer still shots, photos.
Got it.
Okay. So you would think, well, why don't they allow videos and see the whole play, right? And then you can draw and mark it up. And, well, even Coach Jason Garrett, who, is a pretty forward-thinking guy.
For sure.
They're like, no, that's too much of an advantage. That takes away all of the work that you put in during the week. Let's keep it where coaching is coaching and you're not there, looking at videotape. It's kind of an old school. It's an old school versus new school argument. So, and I'm sure it will be addressed again this year. I know that there are coaches who absolutely would love to have the video and not just a still shot, but others.
It seems like it would take up a lot of time, though.
Well, these plays are only like 3 to 4 seconds long.
And we get them on social immediately. I mean, that sounds silly, and it's such a different aspect of that. But I mean, we have the highlights as they're going too, and to think of that somebody on the sidelines could have them, kind of almost streaming, it would be pretty quick if they wanted to integrate that.
Gotcha. And they've actually experimented with it in preseason.
Okay.
But they have not. It's not been.
West.
Yeah, it's not been adopted for regular season. But that is some. Actually, it sounds kind of weird, but I love to broadcast preseason games because, especially from the perspective of sideline reporter, because there are all sorts of things that are being experimented. Whether it's an 8th official instead of 7 on the field, an extra referee, not a ref, but an extra official.
Yeah.
Member of the officiating crew. They experimented, moving the umpire from next to the linebacker in the defense to behind the quarterback, and it went well, so they kept him there full time. So all of these things that you see experimented a few years later, they're often adopted and become part of the just regular part of the NFL.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, last question in regards to the helmets. Do they practice with those helmets that have the speakers in them?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
They do. And especially when you have new play callers, it's really important to practice and have that. But they also practice doing hand signals as well in case there were any technical difficulties. And by the way, if you have a technical difficulty on one sideline, let's say we're the Cowboys and Taylor is the Redskins, if something happens with our communication system,
it gets cut out.
If we don't have it on our side, she can't have it on her side.
That
happens more frequently with the surfaces, I feel like.
Yes.
I've seen that a lot recently where they're like, hey,
ours aren't working.
Yeah, ours aren't working. And then they just cut it on the other side, too.
Ooh, you got to be prepared. You got to be ready. Jeez, because you never know when that can happen.
And so that's why it's like, well, why do they still do the photo, the print out the photos when, those old coaches should adapt to the new ways. It's like not everything works the way it is supposed to work, especially when you have 93,000 people with all of their technical, uploading stuff. And, there is so, we're going to have to get Keller McCrary to come in here, the frequency coordinator, and tell some stories about some of the crazy things that happen technically during a game. I'll tell you one quick one. We have a game in Seattle. This is several years ago. And there are only so many frequencies, bands, in the air that you can use frequency. There are only so many frequencies available. And the visiting team, we needed frequencies for Seattle. Well, sometimes you borrow them for, it's like the old Texas Stadium was on the same frequency as one of the local tow truck dispatchers. What? So it happened a few times where they're trying to do a play call and they're getting there's a stalled vehicle on the right shoulder or I-14, stuff like this happens. Well, anyway, Keller had to go to the FBI office, called the FBI office in Seattle and says, hey, can we borrow some of your frequencies for 6 hours on Sunday afternoon? But luckily, there were some Cowboy fans in that Seattle field office.
That helped out.
And so the frequencies that we were using that day, some of them were actually FBI frequencies.
Official frequencies.
I disavow any knowledge,
Wow.
Hope I don't get in trouble with the FBI for telling this story.
Well, sticking with the Super Bowl, halftime. Maroon 5, Travis Scott, Big Boy. What were you guys' thoughts?
I feel like Christy just looked at me like, this is your area now. I know the frequency coordinator's name, but this is you. You did. Do you like Maroon 5?
I do. I like them fine.
Yeah. Just there. It ends there.
Yeah.
I was very. My favorite part was when Adam Levine showed his tattoos. So
That was nice. That was
Did
nice.
not expect that from Christy, but pleasantly surprised. I like Maroon 5. I think they did good, and I think it was more Atlanta-inspired halftime than I thought they would do. I think a lot of the...
So why did they do Maroon 5? Because they don't have a tie to Atlanta.
Well, there was so much controversy already as
yeah.
far as who was going to perform and who wasn't. I mean, Maroon 5 was the first performer of the halftime show that didn't have a press conference during the week because they were prepared for it to be extremely controversial and they just didn't want to go there. You know, just keep it on the performance.
And is that I don't think that's what they usually do, have a local tie into the city, an artist, but with Atlanta having so many
Things they
used to. They used to before
Really?
the Michael Jackson, before they changed and it became as big an event as the
Right.
game itself for casual fans.
And I agree. I thought it was entertaining. I mean, I know, of course, like you mentioned, Diana Ross and the helicopter, and of course, we've had Lady Gaga and Prince and U2. I mean, I don't know if you can expect those kind of performances every year, you know?
They tried to. I mean, Katy Perry tried to, and that definitely had no connection to Phoenix.
No connection.
Arizona at all.
What was it, the Shark?
Actually, it's funny because I was at the Katy Perry concert here in Dallas last January 2018, and there were people, a lot of her fans come dressed up, and there were at least 3 different left sharks.
Yeah.
People dressed up in shark outfits. And they're getting pictures with the
just 'cause he
people
couldn't
dressed up as
dance
left
or-
shark.
Yeah,
It was out of sync.
They know the exposure they're getting
Right.
that day, the artists do, and then if you can be different or unique, it's going to go viral. I mean, the one thing from Justin Timberlake's performance last year is that he did, of course, Purple Rain, and it was incredible, but he took that selfie with that little boy,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
that one went viral.
Yeah.
So this year, I feel like, there was going to be something, people were ready for it.
I thought it was entertaining.
It was entertaining, but I don't know if it'll go down on the list of the greatest halftime performances ever.
Agreed.
But may I share something really
Sure.
quickly before we run out of time? Because I was researching Michael Jackson's halftime show for one of the stories on 5 Points Blue. And so that was in January of 1993, so the 1992 Cowboys season, Super Bowl 27 in Pasadena. That was the first time that it was really a superstar, and it set the standard for Super Bowl halftimes going forward, and really for entertainment at huge events like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so why did the NFL go with Michael Jackson and decide we've really got to put something into this? We already have all the viewers.
Right.
Everybody who's watching TV that day is going to be watching the Super Bowl. What happened was 2 years earlier, this upstart network called Fox, which did not have NFL at the time, decided to do counter programming during halftime of the Super Bowl. You know how we had it was not the Puppy Bowl. Remember how later since then, other networks have tried to come up with a way to suck people away at halftime to watch their network, Puppy Bowl or whatever. But Fox, genius, they had a hit show called In Living Color. Made the Wayans brothers famous, right? Damon Wayans,
loved it.
Great show. Jennifer Lopez was one of the Fly Girls.
That's right.
Okay.
We had it on DVD growing up. Yeah. You guys remember what DVDs are?
I do.
So a couple years before that Cowboys Super Bowl with Michael Jackson, the Fox put a special In Living Color and started it exactly at halftime.
Wow.
It drew enough viewers that the Super Bowl viewership, the ratings at halftime dipped
And this
before the game kicked
Michael
off
Jackson.
again. And the league is like,
No.
we got to do something.
That's big.
In the broadcast networks, we got to do something. We can't lose viewers during halftime. Thus, we're going to commit all to it. Michael Jackson, January 1993, and it's just, I don't know that it'll ever be better than what Michael Jackson did, but they endeavor to reach that kind of standard each year.
That's really awesome. I did not know that.
Yeah,
That's a good
actually,
story.
I didn't know that until I was researching the Michael Jackson deal.
Wow. Well, any other topics? Any other questions on Super Bowl?
It's the 2019 season now.
Yeah,
Done.
that's
Okay.
right.
Well, now that it is over, let's talk a little Cowboys. I know coaching changes are happening around the league, and what's the latest that's going on here at the Cowboys?
Well, you guys have already gotten into Kellen Moore.
No, we have not.
Officially official.
Yes.
Even though we've all known it. Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator with John Kitna as the quarterback coach. And I don't think there will be any other coaching changes yet,
Okay.
do we think?
Well, it hadn't been announced yet, but officially. But Carlos Polk, who played a year for the Cowboys as a linebacker and a special teamer, is going to come on as a special teams assistant. So he'll work under Keith O'Quinn, and alongside Philip Tanner, the former Cowboy running back, who was an assistant special teams coach this year. And then Mark Colombo was retained. His contract had been up, but he was retained, so he'll remain the Cowboys' offensive line coach.
Okay.
Yeah. And Chris Richard. He's staying.
Yeah, because, if it's like, oh, is Chris Richard going to be here in 2019? Everyone would have said, oh, no, he'll have a head coaching gig.
Which he almost did.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, they everyone was kind of like looking for offense and some of these young guys, and the final two, there were 8 coaching vacancies, head coaching vacancies this off season, and the final 2 were filled this week. So Zach Taylor, who was the quarterback's coach for the Rams that had worked under Sean McVay, was named the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals this week.
Okay.
And then we mentioned earlier that Brian Flores, the linebackers coach for the Patriots and their defensive signal caller, was just named head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
So you mentioned that everyone was looking for offense.
Well, a lot, because the hot thing was Sean McVay, and everyone's looking for the next Sean McVay. Not every team went that direction, but the thought was, and it was so funny because I was looking. Taylor's got me checking Twitter more than I used to, but I'm looking at the Rams are just getting throttled on Sunday and ultimately held to 3 points. And I'm looking at Twitter, and it's like, boy, don't you know the Bengals are real excited about getting the Rams quarterback's coach. Jared Goff looked awful on Sunday,
I know.
It's so funny. But, I mean, you said it. Defense still wins championships. And for everyone to, think that Sean McVay is this just ever-present offense god, but defense won the championships.
But hey, they got there. The Rams got there.
They did get there.
And they put a whipping on the Cowboys.
How often do you remember the Super Bowl opponent?
You're talking people mainly remember the Super Bowl winner.
Yeah.
I think it's when they play again. You know how many times do we hear, well, the last time the Rams and the Patriots played, that seemed to be the storyline. I think the opponent is still big in the sense that it is for at least 5 years. I would say. Only because the fact is that you're looking at the Patriots. They've been at 3 consecutive Super Bowls.
Yes.
They had won 4 out of the last 6 years. Was that right?
Amazing.
6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, it was just so back to back. And granted, there were times in between those that they did lose.
That's right.
And then you look at other teams like the Seahawks who went to 2 back-to-back ones. They win the huge game against the Broncos in New York and then lose against the Patriots in kind of a controversial fashion again in 2014. So it's always kind of up and down. I think it's how crazy the game is played out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But the Rams, that will be huge for them. As a franchise, that will be big to have been there.
You think they're only going to get better?
You hope.
Yeah, well, I think the people that say, oh, they'll be back next year.
You don't know.
Look at what happened to the Cowboys coming off of Dak and Zeke's rookie year.
That's right.
Oh, they'll be back.
Look at the Eagles this year.
Yeah,
Yes.
the Eagles, they'll be back. Carson Wentz is going to be healthy. And
never know.
they didn't make it back. So.
Wow.
Yeah, but, other than the Bills losing 4 Super Bowls in a row, the last 2 of them to the Cowboys, unfortunately, you're either the Super Bowl champion or the lovable loser.
Yeah, that's right.
I still think it'd be a crazy experience to go.
Oh, absolutely.
As a team,
it's amazing.
And to know that you could get there, I'm sure that does wonders for you as a coach in general. You do get that experience. You can't get that experience unless you get that experience.
That's
and
right.
only one team is going to win. but everybody gets the experience.
Yes.
Right.
But it's so good if you win.
And the stuff I remember from it isn't really the game itself. I do remember that we had James Washington on Cowboys radio as our MVP instead of Emmitt Smith for the Super Bowl 28 win, because he had the fumble return and the intercept. You know, he's the one that turned that second half around for the Cowboys when they beat the Bills the second time. But the other thing that I remember, one of my favorite memories with Cowboys was Super Bowl 28 in Atlanta. It was the Georgia Dome, because that's way before the Mercedes-Benz Stadium was opened. But the national anthem was sung by Natalie Cole.
Okay.
And she had a gospel chorus as her backup. And, you know, you talk about the hair on the back of your neck standing up.
Beautiful.
And maybe it's because, and I was the booth producer. I was not on the sideline. I was in the booth along with next to Dale Hansen, who was our color analyst at the time. And, you know, you're wearing the headphones, and, of course, you're getting it in stereo. And Dale and I were just trying not to cry because it was just so beautiful. You know, you're like, you know, we got a game to broadcast. Hold it together. You know, it was amazing. That's what I remember about that game.
Well, speaking of the national anthem, I thought Gladys did great.
Oh,
What'd you guys think? I thought she did great.
She did incredible. It's a hard song to sing.
Heck yeah, it is. My goodness, I wouldn't want that pressure. No way. But your sister's going to be doing it.
She's going to be doing it. FC Dallas game, March 23rd. Yeah. I was thinking back to the times, when she would first sing national anthems, it was at high school basketball games, swim meets, those types of things. And she would carry a little pitch pipe, you know, because it's a hard song because they're up and down notes and the range is a lot different compared to most songs. That's why people get frustrated and they're like, well, they're not singing it traditionally. Mm-hmm. Some singers simply can't.
Right.
Like some musicians, they've openly said, this is so hard on my vocal range that I cannot sing it traditionally. I had to adapt it to my vocal strengths. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Gladys, she's incredible. That was an Atlanta tip again, too.
Yes.
Sure. So, very cool there.
Very good.
Yeah, and plus you get the feedback on the speakers in the stadium. You do in rounds. Yeah, you can't hear as soon as you finish this. Oh, say, can you see?
You're hearing it again,
and then it loops back. Elaine Boozler, who is a comedian, one of the great female comedians in the history of comedy, and she also sings, and she's a huge New York fan, New York Mets, and she'd close out her comedy stand-up routine with, I've got invited to sing the national anthem at the Mets game at Shea Stadium, and so. She walks up to the microphone and she starts singing, oh, say, can you see? And as she begins, by the daunt, you hear it, oh, say, can, and she starts singing rounds with herself.
That's why people
and she never finishes the song because she keeps
going.
And the Rockets red glare, oh, say, can you see? And she keeps messing up because she hears herself starting it again. Yeah.
Well, on that note, our show is done. We're out of time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thank you.
You have to come back. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're done.
2019 just started, though. We're ready.
We're ready. Okay.
Yeah, and we want to let everybody know that coming up on Friday, Kelly Finglass, we're going to have a special edition on 5 Points Blue. It's a pre-Oscar show
this Friday
with Kelly Finglass. This Friday. And
at
so we'll get at 11:30 and we Central, and we'll get Kelly's predictions and picks for the 2019 Academy Awards.
Are you a movie person?
I am. I like Kelly's analysis of it all.
Have you seen it?
Oh, I've seen all. Yeah.
Okay.
Seen all of them. Okay.
Well, you're invited. The favorite.
Oh, that's my favorite. Seriously, the favorite is my favorite.
First Man, Bohemian Rhapsody, Roma, couple other ones that are all in the highly nominated.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it'll be fun.
You're invited.
Yes.
Join us on Friday.
Thank you.
If you're,
appreciate it.
Come on.
And you all are invited too. We want to thank Presley for stepping in and producing today.
Right.
And thank you all for joining us right here for everything you wanted to know about the Cowboys and Super Bowl 53 right here on 5 Points Blue.
This has been a production of 5 Points Blue, DallasCowboys.com, and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.